Bang on 3 o'clock as well, but do you want a drink? Can water? I'm okay, thanks.
Do you need a microphone?
Yes. So Laura and Timna, you're going to have to share the microphone. Sorry.
Maybe make me a co-host so that I can let people in.
Okay, that'll be good. How are you? No, you okay?
I'm fine. What about you?
Good. Laura, you have to make Margot the co-host. We're good, a bit busy. Everyone's a bit sick. We're suffering at the people speak. You're not sick. Laura's not sick. I'm going to put the snacks over your side as well. That doesn't mean they're not for you as well, Laura. We are recording this, but maybe we should shave this off the front of the session when we post this online, because we haven't really said anything yet. Margarita, can you hear us? Oh, we've got Louise coming in as well.
Oh yeah.
Hello, Margarita.
Hi, hello, lovely to see you. I can hear you.
Can you hear us nice and clearly?
I'm coughing from time to time. That's why I will separate myself a bit.
Say that again, Margarita. I'm going to turn you up a little bit here, actually. Say that again.
I'm still coughing and having problems with my nose, and I'm afraid I'm still contagious, so I will separate myself from the screen from time to time.
Oh, so you have COVID as well, Margarita?
My COVID test was negative, but I'm still still there. At least I don't have high temperature. That's much better.
Good, that's good. Okay, and we got Louise there. Hello, Louise. How are you?
I'm very well. I do not have COVID.
Yay!
But most people I know do, so I feel like the odd one out. I haven't had it once.
Really? You've never had it?
Oh, well done.
I had it last year. I was an early adopter. Well, not that early adopter, considering it's been going around since 2019.
I mean, I say I haven't had it. I had a cold a couple of weeks ago, tested negative, but that doesn't seem to mean anything anymore. So,
how's your sense of taste?
Wine. Yeah, it's fine.
I thought you said wine then for a second.
Yeah, I thought you said wine. That's
wine. That's most
flu or what it is. The flu or what it is made me so slow in thinking and doing things. So I'm suspecting that even though the COVID test is negative, I don't know.
Maybe I've had that too.
Or probably there's like a slow flu or another version of
Slovid.
We're going to take it slowly. We've got our first Ugandan participant coming in now. It's a bit of a slow one today.
Sorry, I missed the last one. I was with family in America, and it's just the time difference was weird, and wasn't the thing. So, but I have just watched the video of it, and it looked great. So,
yeah, I missed the last one as well, but it was a great session. There was a lot going on. It almost feels like everyone who came last time are not here today. So we've got all the people who didn't come last time. Oh no, actually, apart from Timna, because Timna, you were there, and obviously Mike and Laura.
Timna was on a train last time, or was that the time before? I can't remember. Hang on, you've got a leave audio there. Whoa.
Woo!
Leave audio.
I thought that I'd turn it up.
So yeah, where it says here in the thing, have you done that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what were you saying, Timna?
It was last time.
You were on the train, yes. Okay. Okay, so we've got at least one person that was here for 2 sessions in a row. That's good. Hello, Sophie. Talk to us, Sophie. Maybe shortly, I hope. It feels like this is a bit of a slow one today. I don't know why, but with all the viruses and satellite delays, somehow we're not starting off with a normal kind of, and it's much more of a slower start. Oh, we've got Isaac coming in now.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited and ready to go. So
Okay, well, that's what we want. So, Louise, did you, despite not being there, did you finally get to watch last time's video, and did you participate in any kind of discussion between?
I did watch the video, and I have had a chat with Sophie, but a sort of sketchy, texty, provocative, you know, trying to provoke us each other into ideas. And I have had some good thinking time. So yeah, I've got some ideas.
Okay, well, we might have to come straight on to those ideas. Let me just say hello to Isaac and give Sophie another chance. Isaac, talk to me. Are you there? Okay, I don't know. Maybe we've got a bad line to Uganda today. I don't know, but so maybe it is the weather. Yes. So and Margarita, did you have any conversations with your counterparts in the last couple of weeks?
You know, who that was? Sorry, I have to check my notes, and I just discovered that my memory suffered as well.
Wow.
We started a conversation very briefly with one of us, just trying to, because that was before the YouTube recording was published of the previous session. I missed the previous session as well. And I couldn't realize what shall I do actually. So I'm still there, sorry.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll just advance this conversation today. Henry, welcome. Talk to us, give us a sound check. So far we've not managed to hear any voices from Uganda in this session, so talk to us. How are you? Hello, Henry? Okay, I'm going to go. I'm a little bit concerned because we've got Sophie, Isaac, and Henry now coming in from Uganda, but we've not heard from any of them. So I'm a little bit concerned. Maybe we've got a dodgy connection to across the Mediterranean this time. Somebody from Uganda say hello, or just all of you say hello, or just raise your hand, or give us some kind of sign that you can actually hear what we're saying.
Hi.
Hey.
I was having some bit of connectivity challenge, and my Zoom was actually just updating, but I'm happy to be part of this conversation now.
Cool. That sounded like something from Sophie. Sophie, hello.
Okay. Hi everyone.
Hello.
Sorry, I have a cold.
Yeah.
I think it's because of the weather, but I'm listening in.
Okay.
Yeah.
It does seem like that is the theme for this week, illness. Can you hear us okay? Sophie, can you hear us? Can you hear the conversation?
Yes, I can. I can hear you. I can hear.
Okay, and let Isaac talk to us. Can you hear us? Are you coming in from Entebbe?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I also have a cold, so at the moment it's raining. It's raining too much at the moment, so I have a cold as well. But I can hear, though my network is not very good because I'm at home. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm very glad to be part of the meeting today.
Good. Okay, so maybe we should just have a quick recap on what we talked about last time. Some people were there, some people weren't, but maybe Margot, do you want to just quickly recap for us?
Yeah, I mean, like last week was a very interesting sound check. I like the background. Last week was last time, 2 weeks ago, was a really interesting conversation. I also listened to it on the video, the recorded version. But people talked about Marriage at First Sight, Gordon Ramsay's Nightmare Kitchen, Black Mirror got a mention, which is more like a movie rather than a participatory show. Then Naked Attraction kind of spiraled us out into a chat about body and maybe even censorship and body as a political kind of arena, shall we say. Also, there were talks about maybe differences in the types of shows that are on or acceptable in Uganda versus in the UK. So that was that, but people seem to be like really fascinated with this nakedness. Why does it, is it possible to ever talk or consider nakedness in a non-sexual way? We're talking about the nipple, was it, Laura, you know about this, the liberation of the nipple campaign on Instagram. I really like that. It didn't, anyway, I really like the idea of photoshopping male nipples onto female nipples on images shared on Instagram.
That would certainly create a ripple, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely a ripple, yeah. But from I mean, just some of the other themes was it was a question about relationships and love or desire to succeed, and that was kind of on the example of, I don't know, I think maybe marriage as something that people strive for, and therefore seeing yourself being married is a good thing. Therefore people maybe are drawn into these programs like Marriage at First Sight or having a successful restaurant or the Gordon Ramsay show. That's something as well that people are interested in. But what about these desires? Are they just being ruthlessly exploited by the media, or is media just exclusively always containing this element of exploitation? It's just part of it. Also, there's a question of Big Brother as well, and things that people do. What's the kind of reality of the reality show versus the reality as we know it from day to day? And are people just interested in capitalizing on fame really by taking part in these shows, and they've got nothing to do with looking for real love or whatever like that? We talked about respect as well, things that we do in public and in private, and some things that maybe can gain us, I don't know, culturally respect or disrespect. And somebody mentioned at the beginning a question of like, what, so apparently someone said to Gordon Ramsay, "You're a bully, you're a complete nightmare, but you're quite charming, you'd look good on TV." So he kind of never actually answered that question about what does it mean to be good for TV. And to round it off, we talked about the types of show that people want us to make for themselves. What would be like a central theme, or what kind of problem would you like to solve in your show, and without any kind of expectation that you would then have to go away and single-handedly make this show, but something to kick the conversation off with. So Totem mentioned identity, Teddy talked about hierarchy as the issues that need to be solved. Dorothy was talking, Dorothy, I think she was in your group, Margarita, is that right? There was a lot of conversation about the war and kind of our responsibility to fellow humans, regardless of whether they are next to you or on the other side of the world. Then we talked about the idea of Ubuntu, I am because you are, and the responsibility we've got towards each other, but also artists and business. Can artists incorporate more of a kind of business skill into how they do their art? And Timna was talking about inequality and opportunity, addressing the lack of that would be something they should like to solve in her show. And that's kind of where we left it. Oh, and one of the groups mentioned that they probably they don't watch TV, so they'd want to make a podcast.
But
So
yeah,
here's an idea. So
I don't watch TV either. I find it to be quite an addictive medium, and a very, I don't know, very dispiriting medium as well. But in a way, you know, it's, I suppose I am still part of, you know, affected by the dominance of TV, let's say. But anyway, let's, there was a task set, which was about coming up with ideas, but, or even half ideas or quarter ideas or bits of possibilities for ideas about how to create something ourselves, or not necessarily ourselves, or just to create a new idea for a slightly less problematic format. And can anyone talk about any of the, did anyone have a discussion about that? Isaac, Henry, Sophie, Louise, you got your hand up?
I really got a lot from watching the video. Before I watched the video, I was really struggling for ideas because it's such a big subject to create a new format and to have an idea about, you know, a lot of shows that I really don't watch because I find them distasteful. And I was interested in why all these shows, which are really massively popular, why I don't watch them, and what are the problems I have with them. And it seems that they're all addressing taboos, and it's perfectly natural. Human beings are naturally curious, and a lot of these shows are around shining a light on taboos or on things that people do that we don't usually see in public, like, you know, like even maybe emergency services and what happens at crashes on the motorway, or you know, or people's bodily dysfunctions and how they get operated on, and you know, their bad teeth or their bad skin or whatever, and you know, and those sort of things that aren't usually shared. So I found it interesting what people picked up. But the idea, another format that I really don't like, I really have a problem with gambling. I really don't like gambling, and I really don't like that a lot of the arts funding funding, in fact, a grant that I've just applied for myself, is funded by this national gambling situation. And it really, you know, there was a box to tick on the grant application which said, would you not take money from gambling? And I ticked it, you know, and I didn't get the grant. And I don't know whether I didn't get the grant because the piece was rubbish, or because I didn't want to take this filthy gambling money. But anyway, there is a format which I find quite interesting, which is these national lottery cards, which are available in everywhere. They're in the local shop, they're in the big supermarkets, they're everywhere. This sort of national lottery thing, you spend £1 and you get entered into this lottery. So that's a format which I was quite interested in. And the issue that I wanted to solve, the problem that I was interested in, is increasing community engagement, increasing people's local buy-in to their local community. And I wondered if we could do, I quite like gamifying issues. And I wondered if we could design a kind of lottery style game where people buy a ticket and and the winner gets to choose how the money is spent in their local community, and all the money that's raised from buying these tickets is what you get to spend on your community as your prize. So that was the idea of a format, which I know it's not television, but it is still mass consumption in a way. That was my response to that provocation.
Does that remind anybody, Margot, of any People Speak projects or anything?
Have you done it?
Vaguely, there's something that's kind of, you know, flying around my head. It's called Who Wants to... No, wait, it is Who Wants to Be, right?
Yeah.
No, but it's interesting because, yeah, it's kind of like taking the power to the, you kind of, people who buy the lottery ticket, or people who kind of took part in this format that we did, which is similar, but I like the scratch card, the national lottery card idea, as well as just like a visual prompt as well. But yeah, it's just kind of empowering people to decide what to spend a real real money on. And I think it's funny because it just makes me think of makes me think about a value. And what, I once heard this sentence, I think I've said it before in Talkaoke, where if something's free, then you are the currency, kind of thing, or like you are the product. So with these shows that we were discussing earlier, the kind of the currency is, I don't know, some kind of desire, exploitation, but here's like real money that can make real difference.
I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about money and power and democracy, and I think it is a very interesting channel to go down. And if you are the product, do people mind being the product? Do you mind being the product? Let's have a show of hands here, who are around this virtual table, apart from Timna. Do you mind to be the product?
What do you mean? What do you mean by product? Sorry.
Well, I think you're talking about, Margot, aren't you, about social media more than anything else. If it's free, then
not just, but for instance, like if you're, like data being a currency or some kind of value is like an example of it. So if you're signing up for, I don't know, a free masterclass with this artist or whatever, then your details will then be used as some, you just like a marketing person, which that data is going to be sold off, and another company will be bombarding you. So even though you sign up to a free service or free masterclass, it's not really free. But also, then, do you mind that?
Also, sometimes an audience itself is a product. That the fact that you command or create an audience can be the product. I mean, we're
talking about attention as the commodity. We're buying people's attention, buying people's time, buying people's.
But I'm buying people's bodies as well. Like if you have a presidential inauguration and nobody comes, then it looks a bit sad, doesn't it? So you need to have some supporters on the large political scale, but also on the small scale as well.
Yeah, I think if you break it down, I think it is about how the system views the people, and I guess I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that even though there are pockets of good things that happen and people have genuine intentions, I think on the whole, and I think the arts is no different, is that we are some kind of we represent some kind of spending power, and essentially we just feed into this capitalist chain. So even if you are you're probably not going to get an arts council funding or any kind of art funding if you say, well, I'm just going to do it to, I don't know, just try it out with 5 people and see what happens. They want to see, there's going to be how many hundreds and thousands of people going to come and see it, because each person represents some kind of spending power. And that personally, I think has really recently put me off applying for any funding for my personal projects, because I just don't want to see the reality like this. But that is the reality.
Also, there's a question which I'm just going to leave hanging in the air, that if those people that contributed into the lottery got to decide how that money was spent as well, would they want it to be spent on art projects, and what would those projects look like? I'm just going to leave that there, because Hassan has joined us as well. Welcome. We're kind of talking about some of the ideas and chat, and I probably it made it sound like there should be sort of like fully formed ideas, but actually it's the half ideas that maybe we can connect together to create something. And the idea is, by the end of this set of sessions, we will have something to create. But at the moment, just a half an idea or a sketch of an idea or some thoughts. Louisa said she finds TV distasteful and gambling, but a major source of money for arts in the UK is the National Lottery. how do we square these things we're talking about, this kind of direct democracy idea, or some kind of way that you could actually involve people that contribute to arts through the lottery in actually deciding what they want or coming up with ideas or something like that. Anyway, but we're just discussing these ideas for now. I want to hear from other people. Does anyone want to jump in? Timna, did you have any discussions?
Yes, and
yeah, you've even got, looks like you've got notes.
I have notes. I can even show them, but the notes are actually so I'm still in the group with Irene. She's sorry she can't join us today. Totem and Gonzo.
Yeah.
And yeah, so our discussion was a brainstorming concerning this idea, and we had the idea of I will call it now the PhD Dream Maker. So for people who want to get their dreams and wishes fulfilled. And yeah, we were brainstorming around that, and one idea was that we could give people the opportunity to come with several like people who have dreams and for certain reasons they have not fulfilled them, and the audience could give them certain possibilities, like to make the next step to fulfill their dreams. And it was kind of coming from the idea that it's sometimes easier to have an outside perspective on than being the person itself having to do the next step in for fulfilling our dreams.
Can you give us an example of a dream to be fulfilled, or is that
we don't. Give me 1 second.
Maybe someone else either in the group or here has got, could just throw in a dream that they've got. Come on, Isaac, Hassan, Henry, you going to come in with one just to help us out here?
I think I've always loved media, and I think media is a very huge tool. Oftentimes it's been used for wrong purposes as well. And as a socially conscious person and community developer, I've always looked at and thought about how can someone harness the power of media for the right purpose. So a dream for me would be perhaps building a very people-centric media outfit that is a bit inclusive anyway. And I think maybe when I get to speak about what our group spoke about, some of those elements will come up. But a dream for me would be to have a media house. That is really inclusive.
And what would be in the media house?
Again, I'm extremely passionate about community issues. So when I reflect on what goes on with a lot of radio stations, for example, here in Uganda and other media outfits, I find a lot of the content a bit shallow and also not socially conscious. There is a lot of, for example, I don't know, maybe my Ugandan counterparts here would also agree with this, that Ugandans love a lot of comedy and a lot of humor, and oftentimes that is given precedence at the cost of real issues that people are going through. So it's so common that a very pertinent issue will get set aside just because something funny happened. And I think as a community developer, again, this is something that really bothers me, how we get to major in minors and leave the real issues unattended to. Okay,
so sometimes actually comedy can be distracting from the real issues. Okay, well, I mean, where do we go? Do you want to say a bit more, Timna, about the idea? Or we'll come back to you, Henry, and we'll find out some more ideas. We'll try and maybe even weave some of these things together, because it feels like there are, in a way, there could be different sides of the same shape, in a way. But Timna, do you want to say a bit more?
Yeah, I would like to give some notes. I hope it's okay for Totem. If not, we will delete that. So Totem was actually speaking about this idea, the PhD. PhD was one of his projects he started to do a couple of years ago, and it's PhD for passion, hobbies, and dreams. And he had a lot of conversations with young people from different communities and different age brackets, and he just asked them about what actually passion, hobbies, and dreams meant to them. And he had the impression that he made like really had really nice conversations and positive with strong feelings. Yeah, just yeah. And then we were discussing a bit. I know that this was not the task, but about the practicalities. And Totem thought about it more as a podcast, and yeah, me personally, I was more like about the TV show. Even I think we all agree on the fact that we don't watch that much TV. Yeah, and I had the idea there was maybe it still exists, a show for young kids in Austria. And I think it's also for German speaking, just for German speaking kids. And they are asked questions, and they get 3 answers, and they have to choose one of the 3 answers, and only one is correct. And in the end, if they have a lot, the kids who have the most points, they get a lot of like toys. And I had the idea, instead of having like 2 wrong answers, we could give people like 3 good opportunities. So there is no kind of wrong
there's
way.
no wrong answer.
Yeah. And it's just like this kind of making the next step.
Yeah. So instead of like it's everything is right. Hang on a sec. Has that changed? Anyway, that's the button I wanted to press. Anyway, so in a way, it's like it's moving away from this kind of right or wrong to lots of rights, and it's more about your desire about where you want to go to, and I think that's really interesting. You know, I think to me, I guess the question about whether it's a podcast or a TV show, it's unlikely that we'll make a TV show, but we may make some kind of video setup when we go to the Art Centre Rich Mix. But these are all, I think, really good sort of food for thought. And I think we should move around a bit more. Henry, I mean, you started talking about your idea of this kind of media centre. And something with a more, maybe you could say a little bit more about your thoughts. And did you have a discussion with people since the last session?
Do you mean a discussion with my group members?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we had a discussion together with Lucy and Hassan, and we really spoke about what kind of media format we would really wish to have. And also, I think you already know that our group was the group that said we don't do a lot of TV, and now it's being made known that actually there are lots of other people that don't do a lot of TV. So when we thought of a format, we really thought of a format that carries both benefits from physical engagement or live engagement, but also utilizing components from the digital technology, because to be honest, technology makes certain things possible which wouldn't be possible under normal circumstances. For example, we are even able to have this kind of conversation because of technology. And so we thought of, we didn't think so much of particularly the content of this show or format, or also we didn't go so much into the structure, but we spoke about some of the features that we'd really love to see in a format like this. And the idea was that this would be something like, say, a live podcast, which is not so scripted, has some good element of audience engagement. Perhaps there are also components of storytelling from through music. There is inclusivity, and creativity is also fostered. And I think one of the key things that also came up for us was that in order to foster this engagement and seeing that people get to explore different backgrounds, we thought of a show which, prior to it kicking off, participants are free to discuss with different people around on anything, not only to create this feeling of it's actually not so much of a big deal, but also to really create some element of authenticity and take away the people's mind from well, we are on a show and they have to act a certain type of way and things like that. So we discussed and thought that this would actually divert a bit from so many media formats, shows, especially that are so scripted. And oftentimes the connection even between host, audience, and different participants is not so genuine. And yeah, then I think additionally, or you had something?
No. I was just gonna. You put your last comment in, and then I will say it. So.
Great. So I think that additionally, the other point that we really felt would be quite interesting for this media format would be to sort of control the nature of environment. And by that, we noticed that environment affects how we share ideas. For example, if you spoke to someone from a very comfortable environment in a place where they find comfort, you realize they open up more, and you are also able to have more authentic conversations. There is a particular show. I don't think it's a show really, but it's a series of shows that is being run by a beer company in Uganda, and it's called I think something like conversations. So they play with the word conversation and add the session. And what they do is they invite an artist, and he or she plays their favorite songs, but in between they are talking about their life, they're talking about inspiration for particular music, they're even talking about their personal lives. And it gets to take away this feeling of this person is a celebrity or is not a normal human being, something like that. But you get to really understand how vulnerable they are, and also what fears they have, what aspirations they have. So I think ultimately, when you tweak the environment, you're also able to get some semblance of authenticity from the people participating.
I think that's a really good point. And, we always find when we do stuff outside or, that kind of, if we're in an outdoor environment or a natural environment, if we've got, that kind of campfire vibe going on or something like that, then it changes the dynamic. We also tried, I think, to do a talkaoke where everyone was on the phone, but they were walking. We called it walkioke. And just the rhythm of walking changes the manner of conversation. But, I don't want to also, I think the reason for this, the point of this, from your perspective, Henry, is about authenticity and about going deeper. And I think there are two things I think that everybody here probably really hungers for is a deeper, more authentic connection. So that's something I think we need to look at. I just want to welcome Kane. Hello, Kane. But also, we're still this idea of a game show where there are no wrong answers. Just pulling that out from the chat, Louise, and I'm just going to do the. So, Louise, your question. You can win a national lottery grant, no matter what you say. All you have to do is decide what you want to spend the money on. That's how it would be, I suppose, wouldn't it? Anyway, so we're talking about these things. Hassan, did you want to add anything to Henry's chat about this idea of the kind of really authentic space, a space where people can go deeper? I mean, what are the mechanisms to actually make that happen, to get a deeper conversation?
Hello, everyone. Sorry, my internet is somehow not okay. It's raining here. Whenever it's raining, the internet somehow. We had like this meeting with Henry and Lucy, and we were talking about like we didn't talk about what content we would present in our show or in our podcast, but we were talking about like the other things that we can include, and like, first of all, we were all appreciating the internet because like such possibilities right now are happening because of the internet. But it would like for us, like when we were speaking, we came to an agreement that it would be different conversation if we were together in one room. Like we feel like if like there is a physical presence, like the conversations can be somehow different because somehow like the bodies are agreeing, but the minds are in different spaces. And like so this somehow brought up questions like, how can we maybe somehow make it seem like we're in the same room? Maybe like we talked about AI, artificial intelligence, or like metaverse rooms. like where maybe like because like we are really interested in like the international thing where like people from different cultures can talk about the same idea, and see how it affects the like the different people, but like we would like these people to have the same environment. So maybe like coming together like in a metaverse where I have like an AI thing and you're in the same area, or like just setting up the room. There is a point that I run away. Sorry.
I mean, we've got this kind of a bit behind us. We're changing the environment, so to speak. And Laura, I actually want to go back to the first slide that you had up there, if possible. Was it lost now? Yeah, because I think that, to me, this is how we started off. And this, for me, this kind of, I'm going to make it big so that Timna can see. Hang on, how do I do that? So you're looking quite cold there, actually, Timna. I wish you could put the radiator on.
I'm fine. I still have more.
But but that kind of Timna looking cold doesn't really help the look of the whole thing. But sorry, Timna, it's fine. You know, we'll sort out some heating. But this idea of like suddenly we're in a more rural environment where things are more open. You could potentially, when we come to our space in the Art Centre in Richmond for these final sessions, maybe we could project the three-dimensional environment of Uganda around the space, because we've got a lot of projectors, and potentially create this sense of being in another environment.
And there is also one point that I actually remembered now, is that like there is because we talked about with Lucy, she attended the session both online and in person, and she said that there is like it's a different experience in person because you have extra time, like before the show begins or after the show, after like the whole session ends, like you have extra time to meet someone and like speak more. And I feel like for us people in Uganda, we haven't had like this opportunity. Like I know, Lucy, we do the tasks together, but when the tasks end, like we all just leave we leave and like there is no extra conversation, like to get to know each other and maybe to go beyond why we came together. So I feel like these are things we were talking about, like to somehow improve on our podcast.
Yes. I mean, you will have a chance this time because we're going to be doing another session after this session, Aberfeldy Live, and hopefully that will give you a sense of what it's like to be out on our streets. Anyway, Timna, you've had your virtual hand up for a long time. So what did you want to say?
I will say something else before. I like this idea of the 3D projection.
Yeah.
And I had just another idea that it would be interesting of influencing the projection, for example, with a canvas. This was just one idea which popped up. And I just wanted to say, because Irene mentioned concerning the digging deeper and getting deeper into conversation and the authenticity, that she was also like, so I'm just reading out what she was saying. I am imagining a show like about wishes and dreams and digging deeper to find out why people have this particular wish and dream to come true. Just so.
Okay. So this question about getting deeper is quite it's quite a universal desire for this to actually be deeper, more genuine, and more spontaneous. All of these things all at once. Welcome, Lucy. So we're just talking about the ideas that that people came up with from the last session, and your name was mentioned as well. Yes. But I guess there's a few different things on the table. We're talking about one is this idea. In a way, it's this idea of like a kind of free form, a game show where there's no right or wrong answers. There's only right answers. Which that's a very, very simple thing, and I don't want to reduce the conversation to that, but I think it kind of shows a sort of difference of approach that we have in this group compared to the wider TV world. But also we've been talking about, setting up a space, and there's two sort of parallel ideas going. One is about setting up a space where you can talk about your dreams, and those dreams, maybe people in the audience can help to realize those dreams. But also like a separate space about where people can just get deeper and be more genuine. So that's what we're talking about at the moment, and we're just reflecting on some of the ideas that people have had in the conversations between the sessions. In a way, I think the job today is just to glue those together, look at what's possible and what's not possible. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's just maybe. Lucy, did you have any discussions? Were you in Hassan and Henry's group? Is that right?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. So I've heard a little bit about those that idea. One of the interesting things we were talking about is a possibility, because Henry was saying if you change the environment, maybe you have a deeper conversation. And we were thinking about outdoors. We're thinking about nature. We're thinking about a more relaxed sort of.
Well, I think something that came up was we kind of had selected all of these different programs that we had liked, or the ways that we would improve it and what those different things were. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm using my earphones and I have really bad microphone. And so I think one thing that I was reflecting on, and all of our ideas seem to like mesh together, and kind of in terms of picking a thing and improving it, sort of a bit like Big Brother, but how do you create an environment the quickest? What are the things that you need to do to make people feel most connected with each other the quickest, to then be supportive of having an interesting discussion? And like what is that, what's the hack there? Is it like getting someone to do a team building activity very quickly at the beginning, and then being able to then move into having, rather than in like Big Brother or Love Island where they just have conversations about quite surface things, then going into much deeper important issues, which the types of issues.
Well, I mean, why do people not go deeper?
Oh wait, but I was just going to say that in terms of the environment that we were discussing, like what's the and actually people seem to be a bit more open and more familiar if they've been in the environment before and they feel like they've experienced it. So we were like, would we have a little bit before the whole session where it's like, here, we're just gonna have a chat in this new environment and kind of get people warmed up to the space, and then or the online space, and then end it and then start your thing again. So then they're like, oh, I feel comfortable now, I'm in this space, I feel like I've done the breaking in there. So that's the kind of what we were discussing in terms of environment, is it could be any environment, but people just have to have experienced it a little bit first.
Okay, so just give people a bit more time, I suppose.
Yeah, but sorry, I didn't answer that other question.
No, well, that's okay. That question goes out to everyone. Why if we're dissatisfied with a lot of TV that it is quite superficial, but why is it like that? Is it because
well, that's something that came up in a discussion we had last week, is that people don't want that, and people want to talk, people want detachment from their entertainment. But I guess it's not the people who are watching it for entertainment and detachment, it's the people who are watching it for mind expansion and intellectual development. So you've got the people who want to watch there's a time and a place where I want to watch the Kardashians in a world that I don't exist in, but there's a time and a place where I want to learn about new things, and so you're never going to get the people from that other thing at different times.
Okay, well, there's chat kicking off here about comedy. Is comedy like on our side or not? Because Henry came up with a point a bit earlier on that comedy can often distract from the really big issues, and in Uganda it seems that it tends to, people are a little bit overloaded with comedy, and then it actually is not about the really important things. But a few people in the chat have been saying humor can be a positive tool, breaks the ice, relaxes people, allows you to approach difficult subjects. Kane, I'm going to come to you in a second, but I know that Isaac, you had your hand raised as well. Isaac, did you want to come
hello.
in? Hello.
Yes. So our idea, we were with in the same group with Linda and Godwin. Our what we kind of like discussed about does not really deviate much from what Henry's group is talking about. So we kind of spoke about BBC Question Time, and we kind of like wanted to disrupt the format of how the entire how it's run, because I kind of like watched a little bit of maybe like two episodes or two shows, and we had like a host. We had around 5 to 6 experts, and then we had around 200. I saw maybe around like 200 people in the audience, and we were suggesting that maybe they move out of the studio, like kind of like disrupt that whole setting. Maybe they're in like a slum area, or they're in an area that is not very conventional, I would say. And maybe that like each maybe like expert would come with maybe like an animal or a bird or something. And maybe this time, instead of like 200 people from the audience, we have maybe 5. And the dressing code, everything changes. The politician doesn't come with maybe dressed in a suit, but they're maybe wearing pajamas. So we discussed something like that.
What about this kind of fancy dress thing that's going on behind me? Or, you know, could the fancy dress element or some kind of strange costume actually, or that, as you know, I don't know if Henry would like that. Would it actually distract too much from the issues? Is it about just wearing the relaxed clothes? That's a question that goes out to everybody. I want to come to Kane because you've had your hand up, then I'll come to you, Louise. Go on, Kane.
Yeah, I mean, sort of like referring back to, I mean, I think the idea of Question Time fancy dress works really well. I mean, it feels like it's maybe more responsibly builds on the sort of naked TV that we spoke about last week. But I think anything's good that, like, the issue I guess is like you get, unless it's sort of newsworthy or big, people kind of miss it. So I do wonder, like, fancy dress is probably going to get like a lot of traction on social media. It's going to get a lot of like, you know, get shared quite a lot. But yeah, I was going to say, like, I think comedy is often really overlooked. Of like, I think you can quite, satire particularly can make some really like pertinent points about the world. But yeah, you know, it's never going to win an Oscar.
Okay, so I mean, in a way, it's kind of doing two things at the same time. It's making it, I suppose, it's making it less serious, which means we can discuss it more easily. But then it's less serious. So, you know, it's a kind of victim of its own strategy in a way.
But I disagree with that, because I think something like Don't Look Up, like this film that's sort of about the climate emergency, I think you can make it actually like comedy done really well, where it sort of eventually takes a really bad, it can go somewhere, it can make some really, really good points, and it can actually be, I think, worse, like when comedy stops being funny.
Right, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I certainly do. But I thought Don't Look Up was about a comet strike, not about climate change. They don't mention climate change in the film. Anyway, that's an aside.
Oh yeah, it's not about. So you're right. It's definitely just confusing.
Comet, isn't it?
We've not seen it yet.
But Lucy, oh no, hang on, Louise, you had a point first. I'm being a proper host now because Louise had a point first, and then Lucy.
Thanks. Yes. Just talking about wearing something slightly different to get to make people feel, I don't know, more comfortable or more. I have a show called The Department of Complaints. We go into the street and we are wearing costumes. We are as characters. We're theatrical characters. Dusty and Sandy, we have beehive wigs, and we're not very serious at all. But somehow, because we're characters rather than I don't know, real people, we find that strangers will open up to us. Our question to them is, what makes you grumble? And there's various different ways that we ask it. We either ask it face to face, or we get people to write their grumbles on a board or whatever. And because it's clearly a sort of theatrical experience rather than a real person with a clipboard in your face, we do find that people tell us, people really open up to us. So I think there is something to be said from, I don't know if I'd quite call it fancy dress, but we're talking about the same thing,
costume, we could call it. I
costume.
mean, I wear this shirt. I don't wear occasionally I wear this shirt if there's a big event going on, but this shirt I reserve for Talkaoke, and I've got a whole wardrobe of those. And for me, that's also helps me come out of phase when it's over as well, that I can relax when I take the shirt off and also get excited when I put the shirt on. So it's doing something for me, maybe more than the audience, but definitely costume is a part of that and how people interact with you. So I think that's an interesting sort of part of this kind of, I guess what we could call ambience, and this sense of being relaxed or sense of being open or sense of being genuine, and all these things I think are weaving into each other. Let's go to Lucy.
Sorry, I was just Googling the Department of Complaints because I was like, that sounds great, but it just came up with lots of government departments of how to make complaints.
We can. I'm sure that Louise could put the link in the chat, and then you can have a look.
Please do. I was just going to say, I put it in the chat, but I'm just going to say it out loud. Is that I have friends specifically I'm thinking of with disability. She has hemiplegia, so can't move one half of her body, and she uses humor. And the whole, a lot of the disabled community uses humor as just a way to talk about the way that they live, and kind of in humor in a way that you wouldn't ever speak with them about that. They take the piss out of how each other can and can't do stuff, but that's their coping mechanism and the way that they bond with each other. And actually it's a very powerful tool. She sometimes she has this thing called tone, that like her arm is like this, and so she'll sometimes use stuff to like use that to hold stuff as she walks around and then forgets it's there, and so she kind of joking about that was that classic thing that she would do, and you kind of get brought into that. And I became so close with her that she was like, if I didn't laugh, it kind of made it a bit serious, and it would kind of be a bit like, why aren't you laughing? I don't want this to be serious. This is a kind of, you weren't respecting her by not laughing, if that makes sense. So I think, there's certain communities use humor in order to discuss quite deep things.
Okay, so you can discuss but does it diminish at all from what can be a serious issue if you're just always in a humorous phase? Can you kind of make an impact?
Because there are so many comedians that talk about really incredible, like serious issues through humor. Like that's how you reach people, I think, is through humor.
Okay, so in your mind, humor's really, really important to reach people. Maybe it's what the humor's about. I mean, Henry, a lot of people have been, I'm going to come back to Henry here, because Henry was the one who said, let's, we need to talk about the serious issues, and let's not.
It's just I was just going to say, it's a fine line between being offensive and empathizing. And I think I'm like I don't like the game. There's a card game, I don't know if you guys have it, called Cards Against Humanity, and I don't like it. I'm very Queen PC, and so I don't like that. For me, crosses the line. But if you're empathizing with the issue and making, that's it. Okay, fine, I'm done.
Okay, so it's about the empathy. I mean, empathy is a word that's you've just brought in there, and I guess we're all interested in that, but how do we actually sort of accelerate that sense of empathy? I mean, it's something we talked about earlier on in this project. Just from a performative point of view, how do you actually get the empathy? But, there are other elements like comedy, motives are very important, says Louise, and Lucy agrees. Henry, do you want to come back in and tell us what is a problem with comedy as far as you're concerned?
All right, thank you, Mikey. I think I must say there is quite a distinction between comedy in the global south compared to comedy in the global north. I love a few comedians, especially Americans. I love Dave Chappelle. I love Trevor Noah and a few other names. And I think when they get to speak about issues that are affecting the people, they are taken more serious. There's some bit of there's some feedback.
Maybe that's Totem. Totem is muted. Try again now.
Great. So I was saying that when comedians in the West get to speak about issues, oftentimes they're taken serious and there's a lot of reaction. I've seen a distinction with the comedians in Uganda. Most times it's really about laughing about this issue and not asking the real questions. For example, nothing much comes out of it beyond the fact that it's been satirized, and yeah, people laugh about it and then they go about with their lives. So I think
Can you give us an example? Just or maybe even send us something on YouTube. We had something sent before on YouTube of some comedy, but can you give us an example of a sort of this kind of comedy that is not actually addressing the real issues?
I will look up some, but maybe just one particular case I remember offhand is that not so long ago we had a minister who got involved in some shady dealings, and then when she was asked where she got the money, which obviously was public funds, she claimed she rears goats, and she said she sells each goat. I don't remember the figure, but it was so exorbitant that it was unbelievable. And then the comedians of the day kept making jokes about it. But then at the end of the day, no one was brought to book, and life went on as normal. So another case is that recently a few years ago, we grappled with an issue of OTT tax. I don't know if you know that. For us to access the internet, you had to pay a daily tax of 200 Ugandan shillings. And I don't know how many people can afford that on the daily, but also obviously it's quite an infringement on people's freedom to express online. And it makes life a bit costly, especially in a very digital era like this one. But then if you saw what the comedians were doing, they were just laughing about it. So there are quite a number of cases of that kind where issues are laughed about, but then nothing much is done. So if you're paying 200 shillings every day in a month, that's about is it
6,000 shillings?
Yeah, 6,000, close to $2. But again, you also need to contextualize it. That in Uganda, how many people can even afford that? Because first of all, the internet is very costly. Now you're making matters worse by adding an internet tax, tax. So it sort of curtails people's freedom to express. And then also, of course, there's been issues like making it a bit hard to use platforms like Facebook, and so many other issues. I will not go into all of them, especially where public servants have misused monies and things like that. I think in the Western world, to be honest, when I look at what the comedians do, they really get to question what things that are not going right. And I've seen a few Trevor Noah shows where he really satirizes things that are happening in Africa. And then when he's talking about issues happening in the US, he has a more serious tone to it and is asking questions that matter. I think, yeah, there is that kind of distinction.
So you're saying that actually someone like Trevor Noah, he's a bit more hard hitting when it comes to when he's talking about the US than when he's talking about Africa.
Yeah, I really agree. I think he perhaps even uses a totally different lens when he's looking at Africa, because maybe having spent a lot of time in South Africa, he knows that perhaps nothing much is going to be done. And a few days later, the people will go back to their lives.
Okay. So it's interesting how humor fits into a bigger context as well in the case of Trevor Noah, about a belief in change or a belief in political power, I suppose. I just want to fill in Totem about what we've been talking about. We've just really been sort of going through some of the ideas and some of the things about that people came up with in between the two sessions. A lot of it has been about just kind of, resetting the mold for TV shows. I think probably the most simple idea is a game show where every answer is right, or that it's more about your desires and where you want to go in life than knowing facts, I suppose. And then we talked a lot about this question about creating a space where people are relaxed, where they're open, where they're genuine, where they're authentic, where they're spontaneous. And what do we need to create that space? Do we need humor? Is humor a useful tool, or is it a distraction? And there's some really interesting discussion about the difference between, I think it's not just about the way comedians, if you don't mind me saying this, Henry, the way comedians respond to political issues, but also how they're understood in their society and on the role that they're seen to be doing. So there's quite a lot of chat there, but I think there's some real kind of connections here between the different groups in terms of creating something that's more authentic, that's more fun. We talked a little bit about costume and space. If we were outdoors, if we were in a slum area, would a TV show have a different vibe to it? Would it, if we brought in the real people, if there was lack of hierarchy? All of these things are coming out. And I think you're involved in some of these discussions. So just as and when you want to come in, Totem, please do. Hassan, I see you've got your hand up. So do you want to just say your point?
Yeah, I just wanted to say my point. Wait a minute. I just wanted to add on like what was being said before. In most cases, I feel like in my country, like people are like, it's like a circus, and like there is a very big clown who, like, because like some issues are being talked about, and even you can think that it's a joke actually, because looking at the internet issue, I think 1 GB costs almost €1 if I'm to translate directly, like into euros. And on top of that, they wanted everyone to pay tax, which was like very little, but everyone pays it. And also we don't really understand where our taxes go, like, because but these are political issues, but then everyone like starts to make comedy out of it, like this is really unbelievable. So it's like there is a biggest clown and everyone is trying to make a joke about it, and instead of like talking, like addressing it and being like, yeah, this is an issue that should be addressed in such a way, like everyone is just trying to add on the big joke that was already made, like, and it's the same thing that someone bought pens to be used, and like the pens were like really expensive, like one pen would feed like 50 people for a whole month. Like that was the cost of one pen, and the person bought like lab rats. One rat was like in millions, like very many things are happening here, like, which is like a big joke. And at the end of the day, instead of like addressing it in like a way that it should be addressed, people are just like making comedy out of it, like, so I think that's why it dies from, like, because at some point you may make a like comedy, then pull people's attention, but yes, just like, oh my God, did you see what happened? And then people are just like making fun of it and then forgetting it, and then another, and like even last week something happened, like like right now I feel I shouldn't talk a lot, but Uganda is now a kingdom officially.
Right, I see.
And like our president had, like, his son had like the birthday last week, and no one is like really coming to talk about it, but people are just making comment out of it. So I think that's what like Henry was trying to like explain here, that instead of like people approaching like issues the way they should be approached, they're just like making comedy out of everything.
Is this down to the comedians, or is it down to people's political outlook and their despondent?
It's like everyone is a comedian right now. Like you can't even. I think even people are making better jokes than comedians right now. Like in my country, yeah.
There's a lot of material out there.
Yeah,
it seems. Okay, Isaac, you've got a point on this.
So here in Uganda, I think comedy has kind of become the safest way through which people can communicate. Because if you look at like the news at the moment, most of the politicians that we have, if they raise a point that is against the government, they will specifically say, please don't mention my name, you know. But now comedy has kind of become that format where someone can say something and feel like they are still safe. And also I kind of, because here the comedy starts from, mostly starts from a word that is said by maybe a prominent politician, or it is said, so I want to bring some incidents that happened where a member of parliament harassed a woman that was working for her. And the woman was not very good with English. And she used the word process by process. She said the member of parliament was using kind of like using a process by process, and people used that word process by process in a comedic, you know, way.
Right.
But the whole point was they were getting back to the politician. They were trying to make him accountable. And I think the woman perceived the comedy part of using that word in a different way, and she was really hurt. She even reached an extent of wanting to end her life just because she thought, stressing the point Still Henry was saying, she thought no one was caring that she was sexually harassed by someone who is a leader in the community.
So there was a distraction away from the real issue rather than a comedy which directed more attention onto the main issue here.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this is interesting. I don't know where we want to go to this. We've only really got about 15 minutes left of this. I think in a way there's a lot of things coming together, and I see a lot of possibilities with, you know, I think we've got to start looking towards this event where we're going to invite a wider public and get them involved. But I think there's lots of things, lots of elements here which could be quite, I think, engaging for an audience. And I guess there's some decisions that we need to make, really. Is that, do we want to move outside of a kind of art center and into a public space? Do we want to, you know, get that? How do we get that sense of relaxedness, of genuineness? How do we deepen the connection? I think these are all really big questions. I mean, I think as well, we've got quite a lot to say about humor and how to use humor, I suppose, in a more positive way, rather, because I think it's, I think it was Terry Pratchett that said, humor when you are punching down at somebody isn't humor, it's bullying. You know, it's who is that humor target? Who is the butt of the joke? I think is very important, how that joke's framed. Lucy, you got a point there.
Another thing that we talked about in terms of kind of breaking the ice and finding a commonality, Henry mentioned that we were talking about podcasts that we like to listen to, and someone talks about their experiences with using music, and I said that sounds a bit like Desert Island Discs, where people talk about you talk about these deep topics, but then you like have a little bit of lightening up with the music, but you connect with people through music. So not only comedy, but also we were talking about using music as a bit of a tool somewhere.
Yeah, I mean I mean, I think it sounds really interesting, and you know, music in a way is just an instant way to connect people, where I guess you don't have words and everyone is in the same way. What I think we're going to do is we're going to try to, this is, Margot, maybe you want to explain this a little bit more, but we want to try and just get you into smaller discussions just to sort of try and hone down some of these issues. But let's just get some final points from Timna and Kane before we go on. Timna, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I I was thinking about what you just mentioned with, I forgot what you mentioned, but what I wanted to say is about the fact that making people kind of move, because from what I know about making the body move, it's like sometimes we get inhibited when we're speaking about things, and movement of the body can help us. And I actually like the fact that you also said that you had a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, the walking session really kind of made a difference to the rhythm more than anything else. But I think moving, we have experimented very briefly with the Talkaoke as well. And I do think, you know, I mean, there's been some experimentation where if people are sitting down, lying down. We always like on Talkaoke people to be sitting down, because if they're standing up, they're much more kind of angry and aggressive. I guess, what about if they're lying down, or if they're doing all three of those things? How is that going to change the conversation? So I think the physical side is a really interesting thing, and maybe something to throw in there. Let's just coalesce, if that makes sense, some of these ideas in our own groups. Well, let's get the point from Kane, and then Margot's going to explain how this final bit of the session is going to work. Kane.
Yeah, it's just bouncing off bouncing off the kind of suggestion that music's quite universal, but I was also going to links in really nicely of I was going to just mention Mr. Bean, because I think you should do a Mr. Beanioke, but I also think it's amazing how much that's translated to other countries, because it is entirely physical comedy. So I'll throw physical comedy into the mix. Okay, physical comedy, and maybe that ties up all of these things in a neat bow. So Lucy, you weren't there for the walkie-talkie thing, but basically everyone was on their phone on Zoom. It did rely on having very good internet connection, but they were all talking from their phones, walking through the Lancashire countryside, and it was very interesting how it changed the rhythm of the conversation. Okay, Margot, I'm going to go over to you, and do you want to just explain this final session, and then we'll just get you to go into some groups, and then come back to you to see if we've got anything to think about for the next session.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the idea is just very simple, because there's been so many different kind of influences in this conversation and the previous one. So maybe if we just went into two separate groups, just almost give yourself 5 minutes to jot down the rules of the new format, and just see what happens. That's it. Just try to use your kind of curatorial approach to pick out the rules, the things that you'd like.
Does it have to be rules, Margot? Or is it like guidelines or parameters, we could say, or environment as well? I think has been an important thing. Or
I would say if you do it in whatever way you want, as long as you're able to explain your idea to somebody that maybe who isn't here. I don't have anyone lined up, sorry, but just try to explain the rules. Someone comes in, and then what do you want them to do and experience? Maybe that's the way to do it. Describe it to someone.
And who's going to put people into the two groups? Do we have to do that, or can you do it, Margot?
I can do that quickly. So chat about that, and I'll just split people up. This is going to be super rough. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly recap on some of the ideas that we came up with. This sense of people. I'm going to start right from the very beginning. This idea of Louise that you were talking about with the lottery, and the fact that people could pay for their own, or could fund their own projects, get together and decide how to spend it, either on from a lottery fund or from some other kind of community fund. Sorry, apologies. I realised I need to be made a co-host on the other screen.
Laura can do that on the gingham.
White and red. Yes, please.
Okay, so let's just go back to that. So that we talked a little bit about what were we talking about? Well, I guess we're talking about this idea of people deciding, would they actually decide to make art? In a way, why is that? And this also ties into this idea of, is comedy a positive or a negative force, or is it both? So we talked a little bit about that. We talked about different environments, different ambiences, creating different spaces. This question, I suppose, about why is it that TV doesn't get deep? Is it because of the audience? Is it because of the people organizing TV? Is it because of the time, that we don't have enough time? I think that was a really good question. And what else did we talk about? Somebody fill me in some other ideas. The physical, the music element.
No wrong answers.
What's that?
No wrong answers.
No wrong answers. And the idea of dreams as well, of actually realizing people's dreams. Maybe it doesn't have to be the whole dream. Some of my dreams are quite weird and I wouldn't necessarily want to realize them. But maybe it could be the next step to that dream. You know, so it fits with your idea, Louisa, Timna's and her group's idea of actually how you help the community can actually take an active part in realizing people's dreams. Not just in the art sense, but I guess in any sort of sense, like what people want to do. And that, I suppose, connects as well to this idea of a game show, because this is what you were talking about, Timna, a game show, instead of the answer being wrong or right, it's the answer which most aligns with your own desires, I think, or your own direction of where you want your life to go. So I think these are all really, really good things. And I think I'm really pleased with the progress that's been made. Okay, so...
Well, there's one type of progress which is not able to happen through me.
I don't know if Laura, if you're on the case with this, Laura. Never done it before. I think what you need to do is you just need to go break up groups, split people into 2 groups, and then assign randomly. Okay, I can do it here, I think. Recreate 2 rooms, assign randomly, assign automatically, create. There we go. I'm going to open the 2 rooms and off you go. Okay, have people got messages? Are they going to the rooms? They are. I'm going to be left with... well, there's still a whole bunch of people here. Is this working, people?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Timna, you're ready. If you need to join audio, probably.
Sorry.
No, on your Zoom, join audio, and then just talk to people through your laptop.
Yeah, but I might just go.
Mm.
Yeah.
Totem, have you got an invite to join the room?
Yeah.
Okay. There's just a frozen totem here. Okay, it's gone. Webweary, are you going to go into one of the groups? And shall I go into a group? I need a rest, I think. So, also we've got the question now about what do we set a task for this week, or do we leave it this time and just have a think and try and visualize and coalesce some of these ideas into some kind of very, very loose proposal? Sorry, Timna, I'm just tearing myself down as well.
Maybe based on what people come up with now, we could just kind of, I don't know, split people into, shall we say, 2 groups. So we had 4 groups, so now let's make it maybe 2 groups and just see in the end, maybe there's going to be, I don't know, not the 2 groups will battle it out, but maybe it's going to be easier then to choose if there are common threads, if there's like a one distinctly interesting idea, and we can just like keep on refining it.
Yeah.
So maybe at the end of this, we'll email people with their new groups, which will be like their group plus another group, basically. But it would be good to see what they come up with today with the rules. And I think thinking about explaining it to someone who is not them is the important one in getting out of our kind of maybe this idiosyncratic bubble, which I like, by the way, but, you know, just kind of doesn't make sense to people who are not us, basically.
Okay. Well, maybe what we could do is we could ask each group to do the other group's thing. We won't
swap the instructions.
Yeah.
Maybe, okay, we'll see. Maybe we can do that for the next one, for the homework. Send the instructions and we'll share them with the other group. That would be so funny.
Oh, suddenly we're above New York City, on a sunny day.
That's nice.
Is it a sunny day or is it nighttime?
It's a nighttime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is New York.
Mm.
But I also had something warmer.
Yeah, that's nice. That fits more with the.
With the shirt.
Timna's ruining my kind of summer island vibe by sitting there shivering. I shouldn't have taken away the radiator. And I bought these especially for Teddy. He's not even coming.
What's the thing that you bought?
What is it?
It's a coconut chitty. Try one.
Oh.
I really nice.
Coconut cheeky.
Mm.
Do we reveal the twist of, and then you have to give the instruction to the other group later on or right away?
No, later on. But we should only tell them about that later.
Yeah, maybe we'll give them a week to come up with it, and then
Yeah, and then we'll say the other group.
Halfway.
Mm. Mm. You don't like them?
They are very oily. Like with
Mm.
coconut oil.
Mm. I quite like them. Maybe they're a bit sweet.
I'm gonna have a nap after this before Talkaoke.
Mm. Me and Laura, we're going to take it outside.
Take it to the people.
Mm. Not from the People Speak crew. We'll try and get Timna to have a go in the middle.
Oh, fantastic.
Maybe you want to have a go in the middle as well, Laura.
Thank
Have
you
got
also.
warm clothes. You can borrow my jacket, my fleece, if you want to.
By the end of the session, maybe we should share with them the new training video so they can.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll just get the link for that.
I've got it.
Okay. I don't think you can put it in now. I think you have to wait until.
I'll wait. I'll just queue it up and then I'll do it.
Mm. All right, let's bring people back because otherwise.
So maybe just give him the countdown thing. Naturally, if it does 3 minutes.
Mm.
If you close the rooms, so do it now.
Do I need to do it?
Yeah.
No, it's a minute. It says.
Oh, a minute. Okay.
No, that's good enough. That's better because we're supposed to finish it.
Yeah.
No, we're finishing it.
Are you gonna do the long tail? Or are you done now?
The last half hour is called the long tail. Where we finish. It's like a finish where we don't actually finish.
It's like Big Brother After Hours or something like that.
No, but it's
Mm-hmm.
And we are starting outside at 5 or at
6 o'clock.
Oh, because it says
I know it says 5 on the thing. We just have to talk to. Hey, Totem. Did you have a good discussion?
Yeah, we kind of like we had a discussion, so we're like having like two ideas. You know, just I think we were caught in between like the time, so we couldn't decide like which one really like we had to take. So, but yeah.
Welcome, everybody. So let's just have a quick feedback from the idea. We are kind of like running into the overtime now, which is what we like to do. But let's just we'll have a quick feedback from the idea, and then we'll talk about how to, how we want to bring this on from the next group. So I'm going to pick on somebody that hasn't said that much yet. So, Margarita, do you want to say something a little bit about the ideas in your group?
Actually, we didn't have much time because I took over there.
Yeah. Well, what did you say?
I was trying to share the idea of this long table forum concept and how to, if it makes sense to implement it as a format for the show.
What? Say a bit more about it. Long table.
Long table forum. So when, for example, in the beginning, somehow people decide what topic are they discussing and what issue they're going to solve. And then there is a, let's say in a space, there are individual tables or individual seats. And in the middle, there is a table, which is called long table. So people are free to take a seat at the table when they have to say something. So originally, it's not moderated or facilitated, but in case of the show, if we decide to use it as a show format, we could somehow moderate it and also to add some element of a game. We can add headphones, and people who are at the table are wearing the headphones and no one knows if you are speaking on your behalf or you are reproducing the moderator's voice, like that.
Right. Okay.
Okay, I think that might be Totem that's feeding back getting a lot of feedback from. Are you able to mute Totem?
From Totem, we'll find out. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, thank you for that, Kane. Sophie, were you in the same group as Margarita or in a different group? I can see here actually. You were in a different group. So do you want to say a little bit about what happened in your group?
So we had two ideas, but what really intrigued me was Isaac's idea of coming up with a sort of show that involves prisoners, like people, like inmates, where they have to be able to also express themselves and use their skills to be able to reach out to the world and not to discriminate them. A few creatives or artists to be able to and also to be able to express themselves and talk about their experiences and how they have reformed. So basically that's what we're discussing. Another person from my team can pick up from there.
Okay. We missed some of that, sadly, but does anyone else from So if his team want to jump in, yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder whether Isaac, it was your idea if you wanted to sort of take over, and then maybe sort of we had a sort of a first idea that then sort of led into this idea.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, kind of where the idea comes from. So I've been in one of the cells here in Entebbe for the last 4 days, and I was like, we have someone that is maybe like talking to the inmates, and I was playing the guitar, and we slept there the whole time. We were eating the food with everyone, and there is quite a lot that goes on. We had a woman that was breastfeeding that was inside with the baby. The baby was crying the whole night. We had a woman that fainted. So, and from that perspective, I thought about the impact of the music to the inmates. A lot of people like were able to feel a little bit free. They were able to share more. So I feel like if we have a show that is maybe bringing a very huge, maybe like an artist that can inspire, or like a prominent person in the community that can inspire people. Yeah, so that is kind of the idea.
And how would this kind of come out to the rest of the community?
So I think mostly changing how people think about crime, how people think about inmates as well. Because at night, there is just one incident that happened at night where a policeman held a gun at some inmate's head because he wanted to move out to make a phone call to his family. So they confiscated his phone. So that can kind of make someone think about how when you're maybe imprisoned, how people think about you. Now, this interaction where at least people from outside, maybe people from outside are able to interact with maybe inmates, could kind of like change that perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some very interesting ideas here, you know, and I think as well, this could be applied not just to inmates and people on the outside, but all sorts of different groups that are not able to interact with each other for whatever reason. Kane, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I guess the other idea, which would, I'm trying to remember whose idea it was from our group. But sort of we had a sort of the first idea, which I guess it could be that these happen back to back, was this idea of a game show, which rather than where it's about sort of helping people realize their dream, but rather than it being like, you know, who wants to be a millionaire, where you win a huge thing, you get a little bit of help towards your dream, you know, like something quite grounded, like a membership, or, you know, it's a workshop, or, you know, so something that is a little bit more, isn't about kind of creating false goals that, you know, that you can just win everything.
It's the next step, basically.
It's a little bit less, like a little bit more grounded.
Yeah. So it's more, instead of who wants to be a millionaire, it's like who wants to
go a little bit way towards achieving what they want to do.
Have a £10 or something like that. Yeah. Okay, I think we're going to come to the end of this pretty soon. Margot, I don't know if you want to do a recap and just sort of like put people on their way, because I think we want to carry these discussions on, and then we're going to do a little bit of what we call the long tail. So we'll stay here, we'll keep the Zoom open for another 20 minutes, just chat in whatever direction that goes in. But Margot, do you just want to just wrap this up?
I mean, I would just say that for the next session, we decided to split into 2 groups. So out of 5, there were 2. And for the next task, and obviously we will email about it, but for the next task, it would be great if in your big group, you kind of thought about maybe just I don't know, settling on an idea or a set of rules or guidelines or kind of participation conditions. I don't know, something like rules.
In a way, it's a kind of Frankenstein format where you glue all the different ideas that people have had, and don't be scared to steal other people's ideas and just glue it together into one big thing.
Yeah, definitely steal and transform and glue.
I don't really believe in stealing ideas, but that's another subject for another day.
So yeah, I think we want you to come up with a set of instructions for somebody who is involved in this show of your making. That could be a participant or a host. Like, what would the host do? Is there some panel? Is there what is there? And we'd like you to create a set of instructions for participation in this format. And that's it. And I will just pop that in an email.
Great, good stuff.
We'll probably have the recording of this session for anyone who wasn't able to make it up on our YouTube soon.
Say hello to those people that weren't able to make it.
Hello.
We're saying hello to you now. You need to help us out here. You need to get involved in this too and help us come up with these ideas, these sets of instructions for next time. And
what I will also add in this email is I will just, send everyone a reminder of the kind of technical possibilities that we have. We don't have loads, but we have some. But more to the point, if you were thinking about doing the show on the 10th of July, and you knew that we've got venue, we've got whatever technical equipment on the Ugandan side, whatever technical equipment on our side. Yeah, I mean,
I just want to say I love the idea of this kind of recreating like a natural scene from somewhere in the Ugandan countryside with projections. Maybe we can get somebody to go and film it, and so we can turn it into projections and recreate that in Rich Mix. But what are the key things there? Will it actually, is that what we want to help people to feel relaxed and open? These are all questions for next time. Any final thoughts?
And the final thing to think about is who might be the people coming to this event, because inevitably they will be the participants. You may or may not be successful in getting people involved in, people in prisons, for instance, to participate in the event. You may be successful, but who is the audience? Who are the people likely to come to the event, and how can they participate? That would be mine.
Maybe there is a way to bring people from the prisons in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, these are any final thoughts, anyone, before we wrap this up? Okay.
I was going to say, I think a cat walking across, cats photobombing scenes. If anyone can't see Louise's cat, it's like just a great way of easing tension. Okay, so maybe we should bring some cats to that event, or at least get a kind of cat's eye view of the situation. Okay, I'm going to hit the theme music, but it's not actually over yet, because we're going to carry this on and have a bit of just a general Talkaoke style chit chat. But I feel like we should mix this up a little bit, Timna, because I would like to give you the chance to jump in the middle, as you're the only participant here.
Okay.
Would you like to jump in the middle and have a go at hosting this?
Let's do that.
What we call the long tail. It's only going to be 15 minutes now, but I'm going to get you your headset mic, and people we're just going. I mean, if you need to go, you need to go, but we're going to carry on a conversation. I'm going to go and get a headset mic for Timna. Timna's she's been in the middle of the table before, so hopefully she can remember how to get in. Maybe just use that mic for now. Oh no, here's the headset mic. So I'll give you your own mic. Here we are. And I'm going to take your place, Timna, around the edge. I'm not just going to go. And We've got another session later on that we want you to join as well. And hopefully Timna's going to have a second go in that one if she's around. This is all probably news to you. I can do that. What I'd like to do is just do a little record scratch like that. There we go. But you. Oops. Sorry, everybody. There you go. Stick that in your pocket.
One, two, can you hear me? Cool. I just had an idea related to your name, Mikey. Is there? But I guess I'm not the first one saying that. Yeah.
It's been said.
So who's still here? So I see Totem, Margot, Louise, Isaac, Kane, Margarita, Hassan, and Henry. I'm actually super interested in guys from Uganda. Where about are you? In which cities?
I think I can go first.
Go for it, Henry.
I'm in Kampala right now. Not in the center. I'm in I think it's a suburb on the outskirts of Kampala. It's Nabweru. So yeah, it's not really in the middle of the center, and it's quite an interesting place. It has elements of the urban, but also some small bits of the rural community. So I think being a very country person, it gives me a good vibe. It makes me feel like I'm not really missing out from home, because home is Ginger, and I think for those in Uganda know that Ginger it has a very peculiar vibe to it. I can see Isaac smiling. Yeah, Ginger has a very peculiar vibe to it, and in case you come to Uganda, it's one place you really need to look out for. So being in Kampala, a city, and the life being a bit faster, but then being in this particular locality gives me that sort of slow pace, and I really love it.
Cool. So do you pronounce it Ginia? No.
Ginger.
Ginger. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ginger.
Let me put it in the chat.
So Isaac, are you from Ginger too?
I was born and raised in Ginger.
Okay.
But now I stay in Entebbe. So Entebbe is kind of like a peninsula, and it's also where like the national airport is. So I'm in Entebbe, but born and raised in Ginger.
Cool. Thanks for popping that into the chat, because I just wanted to to ask you if ginger is related to the word ginger, like the plant, but now I know it's not.
It's a stone.
It's a stone. What kind of stone is it?
Like if you're going to say stone in our local language, it's ginger, like stone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And where are you, Hassan?
Me, I'm in Kampala. There is like another part of Kampala called Tinda. Not Tinda.
So you're in Ginger in Kampala, not in Ginger.
Yeah.
Ginger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the place is called Tinda. Like it's on the somehow in the center somehow, but not so much in the center. But it's like for me, just the weather is rainy, and somehow have bad internet.
I see a raised hand. Kane, you raised your hand, please.
I was gonna just ask if Hassan is that near to Kabalagala, or is it? I've been to Uganda quite a bit, and actually like auntie and uncle were in Uganda, lived in Uganda a long time ago, sort of forced out when Idi Amin came to power.
Kabalagala is one of the most popular places, mostly like for tourists. So yeah, if you ask about Kabalagala. Yeah,
I've sort of, I think it's Kabbalah because I work with 32 degrees east. So
yeah, but it's on the other side of the, it's on the other side of the city. So like for me, I'm on the other side. But I know the place, and it's really, there's very many experiences there.
I would like to know from the people sitting right now on the European side, have you ever been to Africa or to Uganda actually? So, or have the Ugandan been to Europe already? So, red light. So, and how do you pronounce Kabalagala? Kabalagala? Kabalagala. Okay, thanks for helping.
Yeah, and it can mean pancake. Kabalagala. So the place is called Pancake.
Sorry, I didn't get it. What is it called?
Kabalagala, like we have a type of pancake here. It's called Kabalagala, like pancake.
I just the name.
So the place is called Kabalagala.
And this is where about you live also at the moment in Kampala. Okay, I think we lost Hassan.
Hassan lives in.
No, I don't think that, but it's like I read like what they explain is.
The red light is.
I like the idea of naming. I think we should name areas after food. Is just a great idea.
Yeah.
Places are. I mean, it would make them far more attractive to go to.
Well, there is a place near where I'm from called Sandwich.
Yeah.
Which is in a way, it's where the word comes from. Sandwich. It's actually, it's a town in Kent, a small town by the sea. But they didn't invent the sandwich. It was the Earl, or it was kind of like the Lord of Sandwich. I don't think he invented the sandwich, but it became associated with him because he liked to eat sandwiches whilst playing poker.
That's such a boring thing to like.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is there are places next to actually Sandwich is a place called Ham. So we've got places in the UK, many of which are associated with certain foods.
I live near a village called Tiddlywink.
Is Tiddlywink a food too? No.
No, but it's a game, I suppose, isn't it? And it's a little where you have to flick little counters, but it sounds very funny as well.
And there's haunch of venison as well, so a leg of meat basically. There's a street called Haunch of Venison in London.
Oh really?
Yeah.
There we go.
Never heard about it. Yeah.
There are places in the UK which are named after foods or foods named after them. Maybe we should ask those people that are not from the UK.
Yeah.
We've got a few around the table.
Margarita, is there a place in Russia called after the food, or is food called after a city? Yeah, might be also the other way around.
I don't remember. I just can say that there is a, I don't know, is it a city or town? Which call themselves as a capital of, guys, I'm in trouble with my flu. Capital of cucumbers.
Cucumbers, that's great. That's cool.
In between Moscow and Ryazan, which is another definitely city, their neighboring city with their areas, and that's in the middle. And this town sounds funny, Lukhavitsa. I don't know what does it mean. It means nothing for me and for most people. But their symbol is a cucumber, and they have this in a small and very
like little gherkins.
Quite famous, yeah.
It's a cucumber city.
Yeah, cucumber, and they used to have a huge banner there on their main street, which is also a highway between Moscow and Ryazan and further to the east part of Russia. And the banner said, like, there are 3 capitals in the world: Moscow, Paris, and Luhavice.
And which colors do their flag have?
Oh,
I just yeah.
And they have a huge monument for this cucumber.
Okay. It's a really huge one. Are there any cucumber cities in Uganda? Or any other fruit or vegetable cities?
I guess that's
so.
In the UK, the city or town called Deal, is it spelled like Deal, the herb, or a different Deal?
No, I think it's deal, as in.
Yeah, as in a
deal.
Bad deal. A bad
deal.
There is actually a bus that's got ham sandwich deal written on it.
Ham sandwich deal. That's
deal
a
is
good
actually
one.
near to next to sandwich.
Ham sandwich, yeah.
And ham, so they're all in the same place. All these food towns. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe things are not working the same, but in Uganda, well, they've got the pancake place.
And I think there was also, weren't we discussing about
the Rolex?
The Rolex.
The Rolex is a wrap.
Yeah,
in Kampala.
exactly. Yeah, with a joke. Good memory. Yeah, I'm thinking about towns in Austria, but no, I don't think so. That there are any food-related places.
Well, in
Hamburg.
Maybe. Yeah, in America, a wiener is a kind of. It's kind of the name. It's not a wiener. It's a wiener.
Yeah,
but it means a sausage. But then it also means what a sausage can mean, if you see what I mean. Anyway, but that comes originally from Vienna, the wiener.
Yeah, the Wiener Schnitzel. Yeah. So, and no, I think that's not that's not actually food. I just thought it would have been food. Oh, there's a lot of cheese in Europe. We have cheese named after places where they. I think Gouda. It's in Europe. Yes, I think it's in the Netherlands.
We've got cheddar.
Cheddar.
One of my favorite stories, just to stick on the German thing, is when John F. Kennedy came to Berlin and said, "Ich bin ein Berliner," which means I'm a donut. Yeah. A Berliner is a kind of jammy donut.
Chocolate.
No, I think it's a jam donut.
It's I think the typical one, but in Austria it's called Krapfen, so we don't say Berliner. But I think it's with apricot jam inside. But you can also have it with sometimes with kind of Nutella thing.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and never.
It's really nice with Nutella.
Yeah.
I was wondering, does just whether anyone has ever in Uganda has ever tried making a sweet Rolex, whether that would work. I mean, I guess it would be weird with the I guess you need to switch out like the cabbage and stuff for Nutella or something. But yeah, has anyone ever tried a sweet Rolex? Does that exist?
So yeah, I say go for it.
So I have if you mentioned that you were in Uganda, I was interested in kind of like you mentioned something to do with Idi Amin, so it was very interesting. I wanted to like pose some questions about that, but I have tried a Rolex. There is a place in Jinja called Bujagari. It's where we have the famous Butela, and I've tried another Rolex that had banana, sweet banana. But I've never like tried. So it's made out of a Rolex is made from dough and then chapati, kind of like. I've never tried the one that is made from just something sweet, and they've made the dough sweet.
So we do have sweet Rolex, and we do have great soundtracks.
We're running out of time now, so it's time for the final thoughts.
Final thought. Yeah, Henry was just mentioning. Yeah, he always thought what the JFK statement means. I'm a Berliner. Yeah. Cool. So any final thoughts from you? Louise, do you have a final thought?
I'm interested in what people's favorite sweet dessert is.
Ooh, that's a really, really, really good final question, actually. So, Totem, do you have a favorite pastry? So you said, yeah, sweet food.
Sweet, yeah.
Totem, do you have a favorite sweet pastry or food?
Yeah, so basically, we in Uganda, like the only type of Rolex most times that we know, it's made out of eggs and veggies and vegetables. So basically, it's called a Rolex because they roll eggs in a chapati.
Yeah.
Basically, there's been other ways like they've been trying to transform it, to modernize it. So what they do, they out of the Rolex, they can make for you a pizza. So after making a Rolex, roll the eggs with a chapati, then they chop to make a pizza. So I think that is the only kind of Rolex that we have in Uganda. It's one of the most famous foods. You know, it's like a street food.
Yeah.
So yeah, some people when they call
Are
it,
there
some
any
people call
are there any sweet things that are common in Uganda that everybody likes?
Mandazi.
Talking about the foods. First of all, like in Uganda, we have over 50
So
tribes.
basically, yeah, we have other foods as well. So I think like most of the regions in Uganda, they are defined by the type of the food, their culture of food. You know, like the Acholis, like from northern Uganda, they have some of the most famous food that is also continental. So basically, yeah, we have other sweet foods as well. So from northern Uganda, they are known for foods like bo, which is it's a continental dish actually. So yeah.
Okay, so we have the banjo, you said. It's the name, one of the sweet foods. Was it banjo? Maybe I'm pronouncing it in the wrong way.
I'm not hearing.
We're gonna have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
So it's time for final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Margarita, do you have a final thought?
I missed the moment. How did we came up with the topic, discussing mentioning the food-related geographical point?
I think it was was it ginger? Because I said ginger, something like this. I think, yeah. And then sandwich popped up, and then other things popped up. Yeah, pierogi, or no, your cucumber city too. Yeah. Okay.
So, that was a good funny element which made all of the speakers like relax and say funny things or not that funny. So probably for the potential show.
That's an interesting idea. Good. I will steal your idea. Yeah. Any final thoughts, Totem, Isaac, and Hassan? Or Kane, do you have any final thoughts? Or Mikey, sorry, I'm ignoring Mikey.
I guess there's a universality of food. Like, I mean, I'm surprised that no one's mentioned cricket because they're amazing. Uganda. I was going to say mandazi is a sweet fried dough that you get in Uganda as well. It's very, very good. But there's something about like food that is really, it's sort of like it's quite interesting talking about food.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone can relate to food. Thank you for that input. So Bandazi, you said.
Yeah, it's always interesting to know about different cultures, and one time also you get about the food and everything. Forgive my internet. I don't know if you can hear me. So thank you everyone for sharing. Like, Uganda is still very interesting. We have over 50 tribes. Tribes come with like a different food, a different dance, a different language, and it's really complicated.
It's special, like every other country, I would say, isn't it? Okay. Thank you, Hassan, for your final thoughts. Any final thoughts? Isaac, Totem.
Yes, I would make my final thought to be maybe we kind of like have a session where we teach someone how to make Ugandan food and they can get the recipes for making it, they can try it out, and then also maybe like think about something that we cannot easily make in Uganda, and then we are taught how to make it. Very interesting. And I like the music. It's really nice.
So you mean that we should exchange recipes from Uganda and I'm not sure if I understood it in the right way.
Yes.
Okay, we have to go. So
people come.
Isaac,
Come to our Ammerfeldy live session starting in about 55 minutes. We've got to take this Talkaoke table outside. We've got to dismantle it. So we say goodbye. Final thoughts went on a little bit too long there because we need to get going. But we will see you next time.
See you. Bye. Pleasure to meet you all again. To see you all again.
Bye all. That was lovely.